Welcome back to Rebirth Revolution. My name is Melissa Olson. As I've been working Rebirth Revolution concepts into my daily life, I've found some time-honored traditions to be questionable. In my family of origin, we bought presents for each other, imagining what might make each person's life better, or what might bring them some joy. No one actually knew what anyone wanted, part of that being because we weren't supposed to want anything. We also weren't people who shared our inner lives with each other, so since we didn't really know each other as well as we might wish, the presents didn't always hit the nail on the head. Then we were just left with mountains of new crap to figure out how to store, how to dispose of without getting caught, how to pretend it was the best thing ever. All of those gifts can be found in a landfill somewhere. Now everyone's problem. It's really depressing to think of all the money that flowed out and all of the eventual garbage that it became. The family I married into was much more practical in their gift giving. People would say what they wanted, and people would get that for them. It somehow didn't seem right, but over time I adopted it more and more. I had to admit it made much more sense for people to get what they wanted instead of getting what I wanted to give them. My kids learned to put together digital wish lists with associated links. There was no chance of getting the wrong color or the wrong size. The only question was which of the things on the list they would be getting, since their wishes always exceeded our budget. There were little things they got that they didn't request, but the bigger stuff was not a gamble. The way rebirth concepts have affected my thinking on holiday gifts is that it occurs to me that some gift giving, while well-meaning, is truly problematic for the people who receive the gift. If your aunt sees a purple polka-dotted throw pillow that speaks to her, you now have a new problem in your life. It doesn't matter to your aunt that it doesn't go with anything in your surroundings. It doesn't matter that you might think it's an eyesore. She liked it and needed to give it to someone, and you just happened to be that person. So now you have this purple polka-dotted pillow that you need to return or exchange, hide, donate. You have to figure out what to do with something that you never wanted. You have to take into account whether your aunt will come over to your house, whether she will remember that she gave you that pillow, and whether it will damage your relationship with her if you ever let on that it wasn't your style. Here's the question. Why does she get to decide what you have in your house? Why does she have any standing in what your decor should be? It's your house. Only you need to be made to feel joyful when you're in it. Your aunt has absolutely no stake in the look of your house. What are all the ways that we intrude on other people's lives? How do we force our will on others, even in a festive sort of way? Are the holidays the time when you get to decide what others want, whether they actually want it or not? It can get even uglier when it comes to food and drink. People during the holidays seem to think that they get to tell others what to eat and drink without regard for that person's preferences or needs. They even feel they get to decide whether or not to honor allergies, sensitivities, or substance issues. I read the craziest advice column submission. Google Ask Polly Mushroom. It's about a woman whose in-laws know that she has a life-threatening allergy to mushrooms that has landed her in the hospital multiple times. She has to carry an EpiPen in case she's exposed. This family, who never liked mushrooms before, would have her over for a meal and put mushrooms in dishes they had never doctored previously, such as mashed potatoes. They were extremely hostile about the woman's allergy and said that they wouldn't change what they ate for one person. But they had. They changed all their recipes to include mushrooms. Obviously, this is super low-level, dangerous behavior, but I bet there's a lot of this that goes on during the holidays in a less glaring fashion. It's all too prevalent that people don't believe other people's food issues. They seem to think that it's all in their head, something that shouldn't be entertained. They believe it is just a way that people want to feel special. If someone gets stomach aches from dairy, but it doesn't kill them, can't you provide dairy-free options for that person? If you invite someone to your house, shouldn't you take into consideration what does and does not work for them? If you are not able to prepare something for someone with a serious condition like celiac disease, tell the person. They're used to it. Just don't pretend that something is free of gluten to a celiac level when it's not. Even if the request were completely a fairy tale, which of course you can't determine, your own personal evolution is not moved forward by calling someone out, or worse yet, sneaking the offending ingredients into their food to prove them wrong. This is a complete lack of integrity and an act that drags you backwards. Of all the hills to die on, food should not be one of them. If it feels like gaining control to be able to make people eat what makes them ill or what they do not want, what have you gained? This holiday season, you can be the living example of what it is to welcome people, make them feel loved and accepted. It takes nothing fancy at all to do that. Look people in the eye, smile, be happy to see everyone. Be ready to ask questions around the table that allow you to learn more about the other people, making food the background instead of the foreground. Hold yourself to high standards of interacting with others. No verbal jabs, no questions that put people on the spot. Don't bring up anything from the past that is painful for anyone, using this occasion to forge a new way of being with one another. You set the tone. You can't change what anyone else says or does, but you can make sure your own behavior is above reproach. That is always your choice. I saw on social media that we are now able to say Merry Christmas again, now that we aren't politically correct. This is such a ridiculous notion. No one ever said you can't say Merry Christmas. Here's the thing. Between December and January, there are dozens of different celebrations that take place for those who embrace a religious tradition and some for those who do not. The act of wishing someone happy holidays is much like saying, "How are you?" It's a greeting that does not suppose that the greeter knows exactly what the person does or does not celebrate. When you greet someone, you don't open with, "I'm fine," because it's not about you. It's about the person you are greeting. If you know what someone celebrates, wish them whatever is appropriate. But if you don't, Happy Holidays covers all the bases and generally makes people feel good. What some refer to as political correctness is simply the act of understanding that your experience is not the exact same as the next person's, and that you have respect for them even if they aren't a carbon copy of you. To insist on saying Merry Christmas to someone who is not Christian is an act of ignorant aggression. It's low level, to be sure, and that is never something to be celebrated. One thing that makes the holidays tough for many, many people is that they are suffering from a loss. There are different ways to lose people. They can leave on their own accord. They can graduate and leave the planet. They can be disconnected from us, either for the duration of our time here or for a shorter period of time. Some are just geographically out of reach. The holidays can be the worst time to deal with the loss. Loss contains trauma, either if this happens suddenly and we can't wrap our head around the loss, or it unfolded over a long period of time that took its toll before the loss even occurred. The human brain has a tough time with trauma. It wants to make sense of it all, or it implores us to numb in any way we can so we don't have to think about it or feel it. If you were able to think about it, you are stuck in a loop of remembering all the good and difficult times. Your brain makes you reprocess it all, as if this will deliver an answer that will alleviate the pain and confusion. Your brain will replay the conversations, will recall in vivid detail the interactions. Even though your brain knows it doesn't all matter, it seems to be on a hunting expedition for the parts that did. The feeling of trauma accompanies these mental exercises, and that feeling sticks with you even if you're about to get your brain on a different track. All of this is exhausting and demoralizing. You will look around you at people who have not experienced loss and wonder, why were you chosen for such an awful experience? How do others get away without this experience? But in your right mind, you know that no one gets away without suffering loss. It's a central theme in Earth life. It just doesn't happen to everyone all at the same time. We can do the mental exercises of taking the parts of a relationship that went well and analyze why those parts went well and what they tell us about what we need moving forward to be happy. We can re-examine the difficult parts and dig into why they were painful for us. We can figure out what part of our past they jabbed at to cause that pain and try to heal that sensitive spot. It can inform us of what we need in the relationships we will enter into in the future. I say those as if they're easy. They aren't, but they are objectively achievable. They are thought processes that our brain can calculate and use to make adjustments. It's just that trauma that is intertwined with the thoughts and memories that punch us in the gut. Trauma is not something you can think your way out of. The trauma seems to gather with it all the emotions that the relationship and the end of the relationship generated. The sorrow, the anger, the helplessness, it's all there. And it creates a feeling in our bodies that can feel all-consuming. The trauma never leaves entirely. Its strength and duration change over time. You can't feel it all at first. Your brain protects you from that. That's the function of shock. But when that wears off, you will be hit in waves. And like waves, the height and intensity changes. The waves are either near or far from where you're standing. And it's kind of crazy, the things that trigger the remembrance of the trauma. It's not like it allows you to prepare for its arrival. At first, you will have many people who are sympathetic, but way sooner than you think, they will go back to a life that was not touched by your loss before the biggest of waves even hits you. The trauma of loss is a very individual thing. No two people live through it in the same way. So how do we honor yet not give ourselves over completely to the trauma over the holidays? First off, it's important to remind you that your graduated loved ones are aware of how you're doing. They're fine, and they want you to be fine too. You will meet up again in what for them is the blink of an eye. They aren't far away. They're right next door. There's nothing that would make them feel worse than knowing that you are miserable because of your relationship with them. They want to be remembered for the fun you had, the experiences you shared. They want to be remembered in the best light possible. To remember the end of their life or the way that all went down is not what the totality of their life was about. It's just how this one chapter ended. It's perfectly fine to be reminded and wish they were still here, but it's not okay to let their graduation ruin the rest of your time here in this school. That serves no one. One reason you will want to find peace with this is that they can communicate with you if you're listening. To listen, you need to be still, quiet, and open. This is part of what I mean when I remind you to be open, aware, and watch for clues. You are sent messages all the time from those on the other side. They can connect with you through a song, through a scent, through all of your senses. But you have to be paying attention. They can flicker lights, they can send birds and butterflies, they can drop clues that will make you think of them. They can use the numbers in our surroundings. I get communications with the numbers 234. I am compelled to look at the clock at this time, even during the early morning hours. I will feel compelled to add up a series of numbers, and every time the total is 234. This is the bat signal I get. You get signals too. You just need to connect the dots. Let them embrace you warmly through whatever means they have at their disposal. But you must pay close attention to even recognize what is happening. In doing so, they have the ability to open fun doors in your mind that will let you feel the good that ran between you when they were still in this school. If you are grieving, you are dragging them into a heavy, sad place where they have no desire to go. For those who chose to leave your life, that is what people get to do with their free will. It just means that you're not, at this time, in a relationship where you can grow together. That may or may not change, but you can't control that. You need to pursue your own growth goals and assume that they are off doing what they need to do to work on their own progression. It's important to recognize that our process of dealing with loss is unique to us, even though the experience is universal. There is no one way it plays out for everyone. It's a very individual journey. If you count on others to somehow intuit how you feel and what you are going through, you will add a layer of disappointment to the original trauma. This course belongs to you. No one can take it for you. It belongs to you even when there are others near you who lost the same person. Their process is different and can't be cut short or solved by you. It really is every person for themselves. You get to choose how you will approach your loss. You can see it darkly, or you can be appreciative for the experience and take the best parts of it with you into the rest of your time here in school. To continue to be upset about a loss is to put yourself in direct opposition to reality. And in a contest of you versus reality, you will always lose. Loss teaches you one of the most important life skills you can acquire, the one that you will need throughout the journey. It teaches you to find the things that bring you comfort and joy. Comfort and joy are the antidotes to the harsh lessons that life teaches. Once you know what those are for you, you have a strategy for those times when the waves are high and coming in faster than you can handle. Your survival strategy will first require that you honor your need to deal with this in whatever way works best for you. You may be someone who does better when you're in a crowd of people where you can be distracted and entertained by whatever's going on. You may be someone who does better going off on your own. The actions that bring you comfort may be napping and taking a bath. You may be someone who needs to clean out closets and go for a run. You may be someone who is comforted by certain foods, or someone who cannot eat when dealing with sadness. You might be someone who, when down, will play sad music that allows you to shed every last tear you've been holding in. You might choose instead to play really happy music and dance your way out of the dark. There's no right or wrong way to deal with loss, except possibly the move of drawing someone else into the situation before you've done the work of figuring out what went right and wrong and healing the trauma. The people you draw to you in a state of brokenness are probably not the people you will want to be with once you are healed, nor is it kind to use other people as temporary transition objects. Additionally, you want to reap the benefits of doing the work, learning the lessons, so you can be at a higher level of spiritual awareness and draw to you those who are also at a higher level. There are no shortcuts to that either. One of the great solutions that life always offers is the option to give to someone else that which you wish you had for yourself. If you have children, giving them a holiday season full of joy is a magnificent way to heal. Children will usually turn towards joy given the choice. The holiday season has so many built-in opportunities to experience joy. So it can be the perfect time to remember what happiness looks and feels like by creating it for children and then absorbing the overflow. If there are people in need of help, you can refocus and get involved. There are many different ways to do the holidays that can feed your soul and move you forward. You are a bright light who is capable of making everything better. Thanks in advance for doing just that. This will be the last podcast for 2019. I plan on spending the next week fully immersed in holiday merriment. The next podcast will be available on January 2nd, 2020. We will get into some of the issues that we previously dealt with through those dreaded New Year's resolutions. The Rebirth Revolution will help us rethink it all. If you jumped in midway through the episodes, I would recommend you go back and start with the first episode. There is so much explained in the first 5 episodes that we refer to in all the episodes that follow. It might make more sense of it for you, or not. If you have any questions or comments, email us at rebirthrev, R-E-V, @gmail.com. I'd love to fill you in on anything that seems cloudy. 16 episodes in, and I cannot thank you enough for listening. It's completely wild to me that anyone is giving this a try, and even wilder to see where these people live. Colorado has recently passed up Michigan and Wisconsin, but California is also coming on strong. We now have listeners in Belgium. That's fantastic. It would thrill me if you could pass along the name of this podcast to anyone you see this holiday season who might be up for something different. They can catch us everywhere podcasts are available, as well as on YouTube. Until next year, be open, be aware, watch for your dearly departed, watch for clues, like those random thoughts and songs that bring back their memories, and allow yourself to feel it all. Remember, you are loved exactly as much as every other person on the planet, not 1 ounce more or 1 ounce less. Let's finish this year strong and go into 2020 fully fueled for the revolution. Bye.